What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It is the King and I Life podcast, hosted by myself, Soul Toucher the Poet, and my brother, son, Sou X in his joint. Check it out. Hit us up, www.kingandilife.com for all our podcast info. Subscribe to whatever podcast platform that you choose. Also, hit us up, KINGANDEYE369@gmail.com. Email us your suggestions, your feedback, and all that good stuff. Tune in to us live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, Wednesdays, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And make sure you like, subscribe, and share, because we are all over all those social media platforms. Stay tuned for the good stuff. Yeah, we out. Soul Toucher the Poet and my brother,
Son, Sou X.
back in here, we talk about science or religion. Ladies and gentlemen, science or religion, check it out. Again, if you're checking this out, audio version, it's going to be 2 YouTube episodes to follow this. If you're checking this out on YouTube, it's going to be an audio version, vice versa. So again, check them out. I say check out the YouTube because, you get to see our facial expressions and body language and this, that, and the other. And, it may get you into a little more. But we're going to jump back into it, man.
Yeah, man. And another thing about this YouTube is we're trying to get our subscriber count up. So help us out. Just help us out. Just hit the like, the share, the subscribe. Do that for us. Thank you.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit help. Just a little bit.
Did you want to finish what you were saying before we took that break?
Yeah. What it is again, we I put it to you like this. We grew up in the era where Tupac was doing his thing. We watched him go from being a helper, meaning with Digital Underground, to becoming bigger than Digital Underground, in no respect to Digital Underground. He once said, I might not be a soldier within the war that society is bringing upon the people. But he said, I want to be a spark that sparks the brain, that ignites the fire within one person that comes about within the revolution, or however you want to look at that. Mm-hmm. And that's basically how I feel, what we're doing here with our podcast is we're actually giving people a spark to make them think outside of what they've been trained to think. Again, I'll go back to the reference of I had a college course where my professor was like, I'm going to teach you guys how to think in here. And again, me at that particular time, in my life, I was thinking, what the fuck are you talking about? Teach me how to think. I know how to think. But she literally did teach us how to think, meaning she told us how to do research, how to do the proper research, how to not stop doing the research until we found an answer that was suitable enough to quench our thirst for the knowledge we were after. Mm-hmm. And that's all we want to do here. We want to be a part of that thirst that you have and spark that flame that makes you look into things that you question. And I know someone like, well, you on that conscious shit. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. Like, I've seen the conscious community. I've never been a part of the conscious community. I respect the conscious community. But that's just not where I'm at. So, again, I say all that to say that we just want you to don't accept everything you've been taught. Do your own research and don't stop doing your research until your thirst is quenched.
My thirst has been quenched a long time ago. everything that I am absorbing, learning, research, if you want to use that word, is just for simple knowledge and awareness of everything around me.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to be aware of everything around me. So, science. Science is a systematic enterprise that builds and organizes knowledge in the form of testable explanations and predictions about the universe. Predictions, best guess or assumptions, as I keep saying.
Right.
Um, the earliest roots of science can be traced back to ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia in around 3000 to 1200 BCE. That is before the Common Era, which we grew up learning it as before Christ.
Right.
Okay. So that's, and notice how when you count down from 2022 to zero, the numbers go from larger to smaller. Okay. For those youngsters who aren't aware of that, if you're out there listening. Now, religion, on the other hand, religion is a social, cultural system of designated behaviors and practices, morals, beliefs, worldviews, texts, sanctified places, prophecies, best guess or assumptions, ethics, or organizations that relates humanity to supernatural, transcendental, and spiritual elements. However, there is no scholarly consensus over what precisely constitute religion. There's one more thing that I wanted to say before we went any further, and that is where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Is it? It was. It's pretty much 10,000 recognizable religions on this planet. Sou X.
Wow. 10,000.
10,000 recognizable religions on this planet.
That is astronomical. That's a lot of religions.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of like one of those things that I found about religion, right? And I'll give you guys a little bit of history on my thoughts when it comes down to religion. I came up, or I was raised in a Baptist household.
Mm-hmm. Likewise.
When we were young, religion was basically forced upon us, meaning our parents. our parents felt like, you guys need religion, even though they didn't always attend church with us. They would make us go even though they weren't there. And I always had a problem with that. I always felt like, why are you making me go to this organization where I don't know anyone here? I'm not comfortable here. And you want me to worship this person that doesn't even look like me.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up.
So, and it's crazy to me. It's crazy to me. I had one grandmother who was all about nature, and she taught me about Earth and giving back to Earth. That we're here to protect the planet, everything that goes along with the planet. Then I had one grandmother who believed that to a certain extent, but she also had this picture of, again, this image of someone I was supposed to worship that didn't even look like me on her wall. And that always puzzled me. Like, why would I do that? This person doesn't look like me. Their hair texture isn't the same as mine. their eye color is obviously not like mine. Their skin complexion is nowhere near mine. So why in the hell am I supposed to worship this person? And it's crazy because I was looking at this one YouTuber, and he was making a statement about good and evil, right? And I wish I could recall his name, and I hate that I can't because he has a damn good channel. But he was making a point about good and evil, meaning he always wondered why people who did bad were successful, and people who did good and always did good by other people. It seemed like they have the worst fucking luck ever. You know what I mean? And the way he broke it down made so much sense to me, and I was like, damn, this is a question I had in the back of my mind, but I never did find an answer, so I just put it in the back of my mind, and that's where it's been ever since. But anyway, I say that to say that if you look at good and you look at evil, they're both what someone would say is their ideal. Like on one spectrum, end of the spectrum, you have evil. On the other end, you'll have good. So who's to say exactly what's good and what's evil? It's all up to the individual and their interpretation of it. Meaning, like, how can I put this? Some people may say they hate the sun, and someone say, I hate the moon. But a person that hates the moon loves the sun, and the person that hates the sun loves the moon. So again, it comes down to interpretation of what it is that you find to be your personal preference. So one man's, how can I put this? One man's, I can't think of the saying. I can't think of it, but anyway, what I'm saying in a nutshell is good and evil are basically the same thing. It's all about how you look at it. Meaning, one man's rebel could be another man's freedom fighter, or one man's terrorist could be another man's freedom fighter. It's all up to interpretation, and that's kind of like how I see religion and science. It's up to your interpretation of it. How does science apply to your life? How does religion apply to your life? You as an individual is the only one who can determine what and who that is. Did I articulate that correctly?
Good enough.
All right.
To piggyback off what you said, and this is what angers me about religion, and this is why I said I'm glad you brought up worshiping someone that doesn't look like you.
Right.
This is what angers me about religion. Let's say that there is an actual God. For the life of me, I cannot understand why we as human beings debate over what God looks like, what gender God is, or anything like that. Because if I stand on the side of religion and I'm a firm believer of it, and we are made in the likeness of God, is what is said in religion. Nobody knows what God looks like. Nobody. So if you want to have a blue-eyed, blonde-haired, let me back up. Because the individual that is on the wall is Jesus, not God. Okay? So I had to fix that part.
Right.
But in any event, if you have a blue-eyed, long-haired picture of Jesus on your wall and that's what you believe Jesus looks like, so be it.
By all means.
By all means. If you have a picture of Jesus with hair of wool, skin of bronze, brown eyes, so be it. That goes back into what you were just saying about it being to one's interpretation. And again, this is the part that angers me about religion. Why are we as people debating on what Jesus, God, actually looks like when it does not matter? If we were all put on this planet in the image of God, it does not matter, which makes me sit back and say, well, damn, what is really the image of God? Because now I have to ask this question, and no one can answer this question, but everyone is fighting and debating about it. And I don't understand why people are fighting and debating about it or why people care, because at the end of the day, our eyes see what our eyes believe, and that should not be forced down anyone's throat. Now, on the flip side of that, when you talk about science, people have said water has carved paths in the earth through rock. Now, if I look at the Niagara Falls and I see how that water is flying over them falls and pounding away at the earth under it, I can say without a shadow of a doubt, that is what's happening. If there is a volcano on land or in the ocean and more land is created from that, that cannot be disputed. If there is an earthquake on this planet and it causes the land to shift, split, or whatever the case may be, it can't be disputed. But yet, religion is up to one's interpretation. I can believe one thing, Sou X can believe one thing, somebody else can believe one thing, and as long as that's how we interpret it, that's what it is. So for me, science is more concrete than religion because at the end of the day, when you really look at certain things in science, and I'm not talking about the most dynamic thing that you have to go out of your way to prove. If you take an apple and say gravity is going to cause this apple to hit the ground, and I take an apple, open my hand, and it drops, that has been scientifically proven. Period. If you tell me that Moses stood on the damn side of the damn ground and threw his hands up and parted the sea, help me understand. Show me another person who can do that. You know what? You can't. You just can't. You cannot prove that to me. But there's a lot. If you boil water at a certain temperature, it evaporates. I can go in my kitchen right now. Well, I do it every day. I boil water for tea and I see it evaporate. It's not up to anyone's interpretation. That is what exactly happens. My last thing that I want to say before you could jump in there is
Right.
the other problem that I have about religion is that it's being forced down people's throats. And one thing that people like to overlook, whitewash, downplay, or whatever the case may be is that people have been murdered on this planet in the name of God, in the name of Allah. And when you pose these things to people, oh, that was God's will. Wait a minute. You're telling me these deeply devoted people are justified for murdering in the name of God? And the last thing that I will say before I jump off of it,
Mm-hmm.
people were enslaved in the name of God. You can have the floor, my brother.
That was deep, man. That was deep, homie. That was deep. That was deep. Just to kind of back off of that. When it comes down to the image of God, right? Again, I'm just gonna say this a little bit, and I'll get off of it. When you go into the Chinese community, their God looks Chinese. When you go into the Muslim community, their God looks Muslim. When you go into what's Russian, he looks Russian. Or looks Russian. You go into Hispanic church, their God looks Hispanic. So when you go into people who look like
Pretty
me,
candid.
our community, why are we given this image that looks nothing like us? And that's just a question I'm posing to people. But the thing that I want to come back to or follow up on is with that whole idea of your interpretation of God, right? Again, I'm with Soul Toucher. What does it matter? We all know that we came from a source, meaning whatever your interpretation is. And again, there's 10,000 religions out here. Plus, I look at it like this. As long as what I believe doesn't hurt me, kill me, hurt you, or kill you, or I'm not trying to force what I think down your throat, and you're not trying to force what you think down my throat, I think everyone should be free to believe whatever it is they have decided is their interpretation of God.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, I don't have time to judge you for believing something different than what I believe. There are so many different religions out here where some religions, they want solely for you to believe what they believe, that again, they're willing to murder you because you don't believe what they believe. There have been so many people and species of people wiped out off of this world or this plane because they don't believe a certain religion. That is crazy. It's crazy. People have been, their lands have been taken from them again with this belief that God was directing the murderers to go into this foreign land and wipe out everyone there because supposedly God told them that this is your land. Really? Like, really? So you're born on one piece of land or on one continent. If anything, I would say you have more rights to that than to go into someone else's country or continent or wherever they were born and raised and take something that does not belong to you. Because this idea of someone within a religious organization told you that you're supposed to do this in the name of their God. What God you knows murders women, kids, and men and enslave them all? Do you honestly think someone powerful enough to create everything within our plane, they would need someone else to do their dirty work for them? Wouldn't they be able to snap their fingers and make something like that occur? And again, I say that to say, um, think, think about it, man. It makes no sense. But anyway, with science, again, the reason I do love science is because it proves to a certain extent, without a shadow of a doubt, if something is either true or false. It shows you comparisons true enough.
It's testable.
Right. You know, like to say, I have a thesis, or I have a hypothesis, or I have a thought, or I have a feeling, something along those lines. It came from somewhere where someone, it popped in someone's head. Well, let me test this theory and see if I'm either right or I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like the example Soul Toucher was saying about boiling water. If you put water in a pot and you turn on your stove, you're going to wash the steam, meaning the water evaporate into the air. And that's caused by the heat. You can see this with your own two eyes. It shows without a shadow of a doubt that if you put water over heat and you boil it, eventually all the water is going to evaporate. It can be proven. But again, the thing about that is when you have a group or organizations who won't let the real scientists, meaning the ones who want to prove either I'm right or I'm wrong, when you deliberately shut these people up or discard their findings, which they have the actual data to back up what it is that they're saying, then how in the hell are you a true scientist? You're not. You're a freaking dictator. And again, that's whether you are with a scientific organization or you are an individual. You cannot stop other people from either proving or disproving their case study.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I have the biggest problem. Okay, so you were the new young hot scientist, on the block or, in the world on that stage. And everything you were proving, you had the evidence or the facts to actually prove it. But now you got this new generation of scientists that are coming up and saying, I know that you proved so and so and so and so, but from this angle, with my facts, I'm disproving what you're saying. And those scientists, they got a real problem with this younger generation, man. They got a real problem. They don't want you coming up and taking their shine or their Nobel Peace Prize or whatever it is that they, accomplished. If you can come up and disprove what they once proved, they got a real problem with you. And it's crazy to me. Like, just let the evidence speak for itself. Let it be what it is. Again, whatever this new scientists have come up with, if you can disprove them, then disprove them. But if all their checks and their, T's are crossed and their I's are dotted, just let it be. That's all I'm saying on it.
Well, I'm gonna follow up on that when we come back. Make sure again if you're watching this on YouTube, this is a two-part a day. Correspond with one audio version. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, hit that bell notification. Please comment, because we need your feedback on these topics. But it's your boy Soul Touch the Poet, my brother.
Son Soul X.
And we're gonna be back. Science of Religion, baby.
Yes, sir.